One of the most underrated and forgotten about types of characters is the skill monkey. It's really easy to quantify how powerful a character is in combat, right? We have DPR, how much damage can they do per round, and so we can kind of analyze how they perform as a striker. But D&D is not all about combat. It's not just a combat simulator. Sometimes you need to convince the king to help your party out. Sometimes you want to convince your enemy to become your friend. Sometimes you want to investigate a crime scene to locate the person. There are skill checks in this game that can have profound effects. Even in my own campaigns, I've had charisma checks that could make or break huge swaths of the campaign. Do you get these people on your side? Can you use them in your war? Yes or no? And it makes a huge difference. More difference than any amount of DPR is going to make for any single combat. So today I'm going to be doing a skill monkey build, or in this case, the skill raven. I say skill raven because we are a Kenku. Kenkus are excellent for skill-based characters just in general. They're among the best, if not the best. But as it stands, Kenku comes with 2 different skill choices, and any skill you have proficiency before you make the check, you can have advantage a couple times a day. And on top of that, they give you some more out of combat utility with mimicry, as well as their ability to have advantage when duplicating objects. Looking at those 2 skills we're gonna go intimidation and persuasion, and then we're gonna go into rogue, specifically soul knife. Soul knife is all about consistency, both in their attacks and their skill checks. We can use our psi energy dice to add a d6, and later it becomes a d8, d10, so on. And the cool thing about it is if we don't succeed, we don't spend the dice. So if it's something we want to succeed on, we try and spend the dice, and either way, it doesn't really matter. It doesn't cost anything if we lose, and if we succeed, awesome. So soul knives make for excellent skill-based characters on a chassis, the rogue, that is already excellent for skills. Speaking of which, we get 4 skills from being a rogue. The ones I'm going to be taking are stealth, insight, persuasion, and deception. So we're at 6 skills at this point. We also have our background, which I'm taking investigation and performance. Now we have 8. We've covered all of the phase skills, we have our rogue skills, and then we round it out by having perception because our wisdom isn't going to be the best. Speaking of our skills, we're going to take dexterity as our primary, we're going to take charisma as our secondary, we're going to take constitution as our tertiary. Now, it might be more optimal to swap your constitution and your charisma there, but I think for this character who's focused a lot more on their charisma, I want to make sure that that's high, and it fits the flavor better for me. Taking a step away from the skills for a moment, we are a soul knife. We get psychic knives at level 3, which will be our primary fighting style. We use an attack at range using our soul knife. If it hits, we have our bonus action for our cunning action. If it doesn't hit, we have our bonus action for another attack to make sure we get off those sneak attacks. Again, the soul knife is all about consistency, including its sneak attacks. All right, and the next 3 levels, I'm not gonna lie to you, they're gonna be a little weird. So what I'm gonna be doing is taking 3 levels in battlemaster of all things. Starting off with our fighting style, I'm gonna take the superior technique fighting style. I wanna pick up some sort of combat-oriented fighting style. There is a defensive one, so we have goading attack. Goading attack's pretty cool because we can hit them at range, and then they're gonna have disadvantage against all of our allies, but they don't have disadvantage against us. But because we're using ranged attacks and we have pretty decent mobility, we can get out of there, and now they have to attack our allies at disadvantage, so we increase our team's tankiness. Another fighting style to think about is precision attack. This is more offensive than goading attack. This is just to guarantee that we're getting off our sneak attacks. Speaking of which, we're going to be using our action surge exactly the same way. If we didn't get our hit, we might consider using action surge to make sure we're getting our sneak attack off. Overall, this character is going to be very consistent at its sneak attack. Now, battle masters are super flexible, and most people are going to take some of the cool combat ones, and there's a bunch of different combat styles they can employ. That's what everyone loves about battle master. They are so flexible. But here we're doing something that most people wouldn't do with their battle master. We're focusing on their 3 maneuvers that boost our skills. These are very little known, so I'm going to go over them a little bit. First off, we have ambush. This is going to cover our stealth skill, meaning we can add our maneuver dice or our superiority dice to our stealth skill, as well as initiative rolls when we so choose. Next up, we have commanding presence. This is going to give us intimidation, persuasion, or performance checks. We can add our d8 to those now. And finally, we have tactical assessment, which is going to let us boost investigation, history, and insight checks. And I'm going to be taking all 3 of those. And because we have proficiency in most of those skills, for most of those skills, we can choose to add both a D8 from being a battle master as well as a D6 from being a soul knife. We can have skill checks that we can make extremely consistent. On top of that, we can lead with the Kenku's advantage. So if we need a skill check to make it, we can make it really, really likely that we're passing that skill check. And that's really hard to quantify its value because it's going to depend on the campaign, how important your DM makes these social social checks. But in my personal campaign, that would have been a huge deal and can help the party in significant storytelling ways. And what's nice is because we took the superior technique fighting style, even in combat, if we're not having a day where we're doing all of these checks, we can still be using our battlemaster maneuver, whatever one we chose, either goading attack or precision attack are my suggestions. Now from here out, I'm going to be going back into soul knife. We're going to get more expertise. And speaking of expertise, the first expertise I'd be looking at is stealth and persuasion. Afterwards, I'd likely be taking a look at perception, as well as another one of my face skills, whatever one's being called on the most often. We're going to continue our hit and run tactics. This whole time, we're still doing our ranged hit and run tactics, which are the best kind of hit and run tactics, extremely consistent. Our dice are going to increase, so instead of getting a D8 and a D6, we're going to start getting 2 D8s to whatever skill check we're wanting to do. Once we hit our 9th level as rogue, we also can start adding those psychic dice to our attacks. So even our sneak attacks are getting more consistent. It's going to be very rare for us to have a turn where we're not getting a sneak attack off. And of course, once we hit 11 rogue, we get reliable talent. And reliable talent is incredible. Every skill we have proficiency in, the lowest we can roll on it is like an 11. And that's before we start adding our skill modifiers to it, or our dice. So we could be pushing easily on average something like 26 as far as our skill roll goes, even if we roll a natural 1. Pretty insane. So long story short, we have infiltration capabilities, we have phase capabilities, we even have investigation, perception capabilities. There is so little we can't do outside of combat, and yet we still can do plenty in combat. We can still do our job as a consistent striker. I would say our 2 biggest weaknesses are, one is our wisdom saves. So resilient wisdom is something we're definitely going to want to consider, probably after we maximize our dexterity. But also, fast close combat specialists can be a problem for us if we can't disengage and get away from them. If we just get rushed down by extremely fast, extremely high damage enemies, that could be the death of us. Now, this is just my take on a pretty unique skill monkey, but I would love to hear your guys' take on unique skill monkeys. I think that's a really awesome topic. Let me know what your thoughts are in the comments down below. And I got to give a shout out to one of our daily legends from our Patreon, Fledgling. This build would not have been possible without Fledgling. He's one of my favorite builders of all times. I love the ideas he comes up with. So thank you so much for your support, brother. Appreciate you. But other than that, my friends, I hope you all have an amazing day, and I'll catch you on the next one. See you, love you, bye.